everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Barbara and I'm so happy that you are here today because today I'm going to be talking to you about the best books I read in 2023. I believe this is the first time I'm making this video, so I'm quite nervous. I just don't know how to handle this, but I've seen plenty videos like this, so I know what to do. But just bear with me, please. So, in 2023, I read, I don't even know, 80 something books. And I picked top 12 that I liked the most. This doesn't mean all of them were 5 stars, not even close. But I picked the ones that I feel like I felt some kind of way about them that is making them be on this list. I have both fiction and non-fiction books, even though fiction I picked 10 books. And non-fiction I picked only 2. So I think we'll start with non-fiction because it's shorter, it's quicker. So we're gonna do those first. First one I want to tell you about is Nature's Best Hope by Douglas W. Tallamy. And I had this one on NetGalley and it was edition for children or something like this. So it was kind of made it simpler so children can read it and appreciate the explanations and everything that was in the book, but I would definitely like to read also the adult version. This is a book about simple things we can do on individual level to help the nature. So the thing I remember the most from this book is how harmful front lawns can be to the nature. So for example, in the US, and yeah, this book is very much US centric. In the US, there, I don't know, it was kind of like a number how many lawns there are. Like when people have a house and they have a front lawn that is just cut grass and it's just basically artificially made kind of, you know, and people will buy plants that do not belong or that are from abroad, they are from different climates or different areas of the world, or trees or whatever you'll have just so their garden looks pretty. But this is not good for the animal species. And this is perfectly explained in the book how if you just let your front lawn, you don't need to have it like super wild, but just leave there some space for natural plants to grow and try to have trees that are natural to the area where you live. The animals that are natural to the area will come and find these plants and will thrive, and it will make this so much better. And it's just something small that everybody, every single one of us can do. I wish there would be a book like this for every, I don't know, continent, every country really. But this was absolutely perfect book. I loved it, how it was explained. And I think everybody should read it, especially if you're in the US. I think this could give you some great ideas on what to do to help the nature and to help, you know, butterflies or tortoises or what have you in the backyard or in the forest. And I just thought it was a really brilliant book. The other non-fiction book I want to tell you about is the Climate book by Greta Thunberg. This one we read for my book club. This is a brick. This is a brick. It has, I don't even know how many pages, 400 something. But it is very scientific. This is not just like your random non-fiction book you can listen to on, you know, just your random commute. This feels like a book that you will read one article on the weekend, you know. Basically, it is more than 100 articles, papers, essays focused on the environment and on the climate, whether it is, I don't know, oceans, recycling, climate justice, what have you. Think of anything, it's in here, and it is written by the professionals in the field. And I absolutely loved it. There are some great graphs and great pictures too. It's a really beautiful book, and I have lots of stuff underlined, I have lots of stuff tabbed, like insane amounts. And I could read this like for the rest of my life and still not know everything that's here. And, you know, every article kind of made me like I wanted to do further research on what this person is doing and how I can help and what I can do and things like that. So It is a brilliant book, and I absolutely highly recommend that if you are interested in climate, you get this book. It is probably quite intimidating, but it is fantastic. Okay, it's time to move on to the fiction books. So, number 10, we have The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. This book, I feel very conflicted about the book because it did end up on this list. When I was going through the entire list of all the books I read, it definitely was on the top 10. But I just totally forgot I read that thing. What this is about is kind of like a speculative fiction where one morning everybody who is at least 21 years old gets a box in front of their door, and in the box there is a string of varying length, and they find out that the length means, or like the length kind of tells them how long their life is going to be. We follow different kinds of characters who are now deciding whether they are going to open their box or not, and what consequences this has on their relationships, on their life, on their decision making. And it's absolutely fantastic premise. This is right up my alley. I absolutely love this kind of book, and it was pretty interesting. I really enjoyed the study of the human psyche when people know how long they have left, and if there, for example, there was a relationship where one person got really long string and one person got really short, so they knew that they wouldn't, like, one would lose the other, and how they would that would influence their relationship and which one had it harder. And it's just very, very interesting. I really enjoyed it. There was also some look into the policies side of it. So, for example, insurance policies would start asking people how long is your string, and if they had short string, these people couldn't get insurance, which bonkers if you ask me. Like, it's really small things like this that were explored. There were some things that I didn't like about this book, or that I thought should have been explored more, or should have been the thought and a part of the discussion, but this book only focuses on one side of the issue, not the other side. I think I go into it in one of my vlogs. I will try to find it and link it down below if you would like to see that, because I go into depth of that a little bit. But overall, very interesting book. I really enjoyed it. I just missed this part of the conversation. If this is something that you find interesting, definitely check it out. The next book, book number 9, was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I found out I love dark academia. I just love the vibe for some reason. I don't know, the mystery, school, I loved school, and it's just, I just love dark academia, okay? So this was a must, so I finally got to read this. I really, really enjoyed it. Here we follow a group of students who study, I believe, Old Greek language and maybe Latin, but I think it was Greek especially. So these are all very high, posh students, you know, coming from rich backgrounds, rich families. And we follow our guy who is not as rich and comes into this group and discovers the dynamic of the group and how, yeah, they work within the university and things like this. There is one thing that I hated about this book. I feel like the main point of the book, the main plot point, if you read it, you know, but what happens here, it doesn't make any sense. It is never properly explained. It just feels like it's there to make a plot. So as much as I enjoyed the writing and the story and just the atmosphere and everything of it, I couldn't get over this part. So that's also why the book is so low and why it's more of a honorable mention than really top 10, but it's still got it top 10. But it was a good book, and if you like dark academia, give it a try. Maybe you will not have issues with this at all, but for me it didn't make any sense. But otherwise I did enjoy it, which is really weird thing to say, but I had fun. Number 8 on the list, maybe surprisingly, but we have A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the Wayfarers series. Here we follow completely different story from the first one. We do have one character that is the same from the first book, and that's the character we follow, but in a completely different setting. And I did have fun with it, but it was not the same kind of vibe as the first book in the series, and I did not enjoy it as much. But I still really enjoyed it. This is a sci-fi book I didn't mention. This is a sci-fi book. I would call it like cozy sci-fi because we really just follow this character trying to build the life and get accustomed to the surroundings and to the new environment. And yeah, it was a good book. I really enjoyed it, but it didn't live up to the first book, so that's why it's so low on the list. But it was a fun book. Number 7, we have Five Gold Rings by Kristen Bailey. And this is a romance, kind of like a rom-com. Usually you wouldn't hear me to have a romance on like a top list, but this time, this was a good one. I really loved this. We follow our main character who comes home early before Christmas to start preparing gifts and everything to go with her boyfriend to her boyfriend's parents. And she gets home and she catches him in the shower with another woman. So that is over. She works as a side job in this jewelry store, and she goes there. She really likes her employers, and she doesn't want to ruin Christmas for her family. So she's like, I'm gonna spend Christmas on my own. I don't want to ruin the Christmas for anybody else, you know, like trying to feeling sorry for me or whatever. So she goes to this jewelry store, and it happens that they had a mess up with some orders, and there are 5 golden rings that need to be delivered before Christmas. And so there is this other colleague that works at the jewelry store that they ask if he can help, and so they together go and deliver these 5 rings. Some of them are wedding rings, engagement rings, or just, you know, appreciation rings. And it's just really cute, really sweet, and basically the entire book takes place during 48 hours, something like that, and it's really cute. I really had a great time with this, so I definitely want to check other works by this author. Number 6, we have a book I read in January, and the book is Iron Widow by Jiran J. Zhao. And this is sci-fi / fantasy book. I don't know if it's YA, it could be YA, it could be adult or new adult. And I read it so long ago, I don't even remember. I just know I loved it, and I know I need to read the second one. I might maybe even want to buy it. That's how much I really enjoyed the first one. Here, I don't even remember. There is this kind of military, they are on some foreign planet, and the military, they kind of have this sophisticated system where the warriors take women to kind of take their power to be able to fight and to take power of their machine, because this is kind of like a big machine that takes some mental power to manipulate and drive. And these men, like, they are very good, very talented, very strong, but they are unable to do the full to unlock the full potential of this machine without the maidens or the women. So she is now kind of taken that she is supposed to do this, and of course these women then die, and so she goes, but it turns out she's very strong, and she kind of takes over the man's mind. Now I don't remember if she killed him or not. This is just the beginning, this is not spoiler. So she ends up being very strong mentally, and she ends up being recruited to the military and being one of, like, I don't know if the only one, but one of very few women who are so mentally strong to be able to do this. And we follow the story of what happens, how the men handle it, and all the other attacks and the war. And it is just so much fun. I had such a good time with it. I can't wait for the sequel coming out this year. 5th best book I read this year, I dare say, is For Your Own Good by Samantha Donning. This is a thriller, and I had so much fun with this. This is also kind of dark academia, but more of a thriller / mystery, where we follow a teacher who seems to be very bossy and very arrogant, but he feels like he's, doing it for the sake of the students, and he's gonna do everything to protect the students. He's named the best teacher of the year, and he is very, proud of it. At some point, a teacher ends up dead at one of the school events. and now we kind of try to follow who did it, why they did it, and throughout the story we know it's not like a complete mystery, but we know who did it, but we are now kind of following why they did it and if they'll get caught. And then there are other things happening and it's completely bonkers, it's completely unexpected. I was like, this can't be happening. I was laughing, I was upset, I was anxious. Like it was so much fun to read this book. I couldn't put it down. I read it so fast. Great book. Definitely want to read more by the author. Fourth best book that I read is the only book I actually physically own, and it's The Migrations by Charlotte McConaghy. Here we are at the 5-star area, so only the top 4 books got 5 stars. This is one of them. Now, this was our book for the Climate's book club. You can see I have some tabs, and I feel like I read this at the perfect time for me, because this has very strange writing, and I do realize that if I read it at any other time, I might not have enjoyed it as much as I did then. So I think this is very different kind of book. It is climate fiction, and we follow a woman who is on a journey to follow migration of the birds, or like the birds that are migrating, and this might be their last migration ever before they go extinct. And we have some flashbacks to her childhood or to a couple years ago, what happened to her and how that basically built her to who she is today, and all these parallels between past and present. I don't know, it just was absolutely brilliant book. I loved it with everything that I got. It was absolute 5-star. I just loved the metaphors, loved the parallels, loved the atmosphere. But it is a very strange book in the writing sense, that I know there might be a lot of people who wouldn't enjoy it. I might not enjoy it if I would reread it again, but there are lots of things that I underlined and lots of things that were absolutely beautiful and things I absolutely related to on very deep level, and it was just a beautiful book. So I definitely recommend Migrations, and I can't wait until I finally get to the Charlotte McConaghy other book, which I had on my TBR even before I had this one. What is it called? I'll put it up here. It's about reintroducing wolves back into the Yellowstone and what that's gonna do to the nature. And I just have to read it. Number 2 on the list is a book I read in January. It's actually, I read it in December and just finished in January. But I think it was more than half of it in January. So, anywho, it is The Psychology of Time Travel by Kate Mascarenhas. And this is kind of a time travel mystery book where we follow different characters, but we start with these 4 women who develop a time machine. And they start traveling through the time, and they get, write articles about them, and they test it, and one of them goes a little crazy from all the time traveling, because that can happen to those that are mentally a little less stable, let's say, less strong. They kind of distanced themselves from her because she kind of made a scene out of something that happened, and they didn't want it to go public, so they kind of were like, no, she's crazy. And so she gets placed in a psychiatric hospital, and they continue working on their time machine, and they end up building entire kind of like a ministry of time travel kind of thing. From there we kind of follow different characters who are employed by them, or who work at this place, or who are somehow affected by time travel, or people who are studying time travel. And then at some point there is an unsolvable murder happening, and now they're trying to figure out how that happened. And I just love this book so much. This was so much fun. I just needed to know what happened, how they would explain it. I love the aspect where we discuss the psychology of the time travel and what it does to human brain, and the traveling and the double time or whatever. And it was so good. I just had a great time with this one. It's not like super sophisticated, complex book, but it was a lot of fun, and I absolutely loved it. And then the top 2 books, and I'm gonna take this at the same time. The top 2 books I read in 2023 are The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet and Record of a Spaceborn Few by Becky Chambers. This is the first and third book in the Wayfarers series. I absolutely adored these. These are cozy sci-fi books where in the first one, Long Way to Small and Angry Planet, we follow a main character, kind of main character, who gets a job on a spaceship in a crew that works with like punching time holes into the universe. And there are different species that work in this crew, so different species, like different like we would call them aliens, but they are just from different planets, different places of the universe, and we are exploring their cultures and their traditions and how their societies work and how now these learn to cooperate and how they become friends. It's a found family kind of vibe, and they are family as the crew, and they visit cities on different planets or on the moons, and it's just so creative. The world is so big and amazing, and it's so cozy, and I just absolutely love this book so much. That's the first one, like my top book of 2023. And then very close second, very close second, is Record of a Spaceborn Few, is the third one, where we don't have any of these characters again. It's the same universe, that's why it's the same series. We have mention of some of the characters from the first book, but they don't really show up. And we just follow kind of this ship where humans live. So when the Earth was kind of done for and people couldn't live on Earth anymore, they built this ship to escape and to try to survive. And so we follow different people who are on the ship, or people who come to work on the ship, or like vacation or things like that. And there are different professions, and there are new traditions, there are new ways to handle things, because now you're in space, you don't have Earth, you don't have the natural resources that we have now on the planet. And it was just so fascinating. So here we basically follow mostly humans that couple generations ago, maybe 1, 2, 3, I don't know, generations ago, their ancestors lived on actually planet Earth, but now they can't anymore because it's uninhabitable. And it was just amazing. And plot, there is not that much of a plot. I think there is some mystery a little bit, or like something that happens that we follow, or like that we center the plot around, or like that we center the book around, but it's a very small point. And most of the book is just following these characters in their daily life and discovering how they work and how they live. And that's what it is. And yeah, I absolutely love these two books. I can't wait to read the fourth one. It is right up there. So, this is my top 12 books of 2023. Let me know what you think of this list. If you agree with some of them, or if you disagree with some of them. If you've read some of them, let's discuss. If you have something similar to these, maybe, that, you know, that were on the top 10, and if you have, or like the top 12, and if you have something similar, like if you like this book, you will also like this book, please let me know down in the comments. And yeah, otherwise, I think that's it for this video. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!